Hello everybody, this is Adrienne at Ascension Soul Coaching. Today is January the 16th, 2023. Today I'm going to do a reading on Lisa Marie Presley. As you all probably have heard, Elvis Presley's daughter, Lisa Marie Presley, died at the age of 54 on Thursday. And I have always loved Elvis Presley. As a little girl growing up, my mother would, every Sunday after church, we'd come home and there would be some 50s movies on, 50 or 60s movies on. And Elvis Presley, and one of his 27, were always playing. So we would sit and we would watch. She'd tell us all these stories about Elvis. And actually any 50s or 60s show, movie that came on, she would tell us about the actors and all the history behind it. But she really liked Elvis. And so I grew up liking Elvis. And then I realized later on that Lisa Marie Presley was born the same year as I was. She was born in February and I was born in June. So we have that in common. Also we had the Martin Luther King shot that year like in April of 68. And then in June of 68, there was Robert F. Kennedy that was shot and murdered. So we kind of like had that in common, even though we didn't know each other. But I grew up loving his music and his movies. And, even when I was in college, I was in college, an all-black college, Hampton University, from 1986 to 1991. I graduated. And the first 2 years, I had all of my Elvis gear there. My sophomore year there, there was 3 of us in the room, all 3 black girls. And I had the corner side of the room, and I had all my Elvis Presley posters decorated all over the room on that side. And we all had we had different majors, we all had different classes, schedules, so we hung out with different people. And I think about that year, 1986, 87, I wouldn't say it's 87, Priscilla Presley's movie, Elvis and Me, came out. And I remember walking, getting to know some of the girls on the floor, and eventually, and they were came into our room to party one time, and it was the 3 of us and like 8, 9 other girls in the room, and we were all joking and stuff like that. And so I said, "Hey, are y'all gonna watch the new miniseries?" Because everybody was in miniseries back then, Elvis and Me. And they were like, "I don't know, I may or may not, I don't know much about him." And they was like, "Who is the white girl that's in the room? We never see her." And we were like, "What white girl?" They were like, "Well, the girl who has all the Elvis posters up. Who is the white girl?" And I'm like, "That's me." And they were like, "Oh, really? Didn't know it was you. Why do you like Elvis? Elvis is racist." He said, "The only thing a black person can do for him is shine his shoes." And I said, "Well, evidently you don't know much about Elvis other than what somebody told you and passed down that was incorrect." Because there was a saying out there like that years ago that Elvis was racist. The issue was that someone felt that Elvis had become really famous using black music. Like right now, even they call it now appropriations. Like you're white and you go into the black community and take their art, their music, and you go out and you take it to the next level, mainstream, crossover, and you make millions out of it. And they never could do that because they didn't have the exposure and opportunities you had. So that was the thing that was out there to get black people not to like Elvis. However, Elvis, if you ever knew anything about him, I had studied a lot about him because I liked him. I think maybe a few years before I went to college, there was this big thing with Graceland, and they were putting out all these magazines about Elvis, and they were just the promotion about Graceland and Elvis was off the chain. And so I have bought a lot of books, I bought the movies, I bought the CDs, and so I started doing history on him, and I started reading books that people had written about him. So I found out a lot of things about how much charity he used to give to the inner city schools and communities, and how some of the black people who worked for him, he bought them houses, he bought them cars. Hey, Red Fox of Sanford and Son, he was at Elvis's and Priscilla's wedding in 1967. And then there was a documentary that came out later on about Elvis. This is years later though, Elvis in the black community. And all these black singers and artists came out and they were saying how they really honored Elvis for his contributions to music, and it was a story about all the things he did with his friendships with a lot of people in the black community. And I never felt like he was a racist. I never felt that. So I really just loved his music. I thought he had one of the purest voices, he had a huge range. He was good looking, hello. He had a lot of charisma, and he had showmanship. And it was like he entertained you. So that's why I really liked Elvis. Now, I have a lot of black artists I love too. Like Michael Jackson is one of my favorite. I would say Michael Jackson is my husband. You know, Elvis was my boyfriend. I also like Luther Vandross. I think he was a great lyricist. He had, oh my God, I loved his R&B sounds. I loved his tone. Whitney Houston, I loved her clear, pure tones. Celine Dion, Barbra Streisand, name them, I love them. I just love that type of music, and I like that type of sound. I like that clarity and the showmanship that goes along with it. And I always have. Dad put me in music since I was 6 years old. I was playing piano, went all the way through band up until junior high school playing an instrument. So I really loved music. And of course, my dad was a pastor, so we were in church, and there was a lot of gospel. So of course, I was always surrounded by music. And so we all sat down and watched the movie both nights, and they all loved it. They did walk away not liking Elvis because of the way he treated Priscilla. So that was the talk of the next few days, about how Elvis, how he really was not faithful, or how he treated Priscilla, and how Priscilla deserved better. So that was very interesting conversation after watching the movie. One of the things I do like watching on YouTube now is a lot of the younger black people who are doing the reaction videos, and I might start doing that myself, because they're discovering Elvis. People are telling them, hey, listen to this song by Elvis, listen to this song by Elvis, and they're actually beginning to understand the power of his voice, the showmanship, the passion in his voice. And I'm not gonna say they're gonna be Elvis aficionados, but they do seem to recognize the talent that he had. Well, that takes me to Lisa Marie. I know she was 9 when her father passed away. She actually saw him in the house when he passed away. I was 9 at the time, so I understand how much I remember when I was 9. And then having to bear the legacy of her father for all these years. And I think at some point she figured out she didn't have to be her father. She didn't have to live up to that high standard, because almost nobody could. I think she finally let it go when she started to sing and to come out with her own albums. I think they said she did 3 albums, Lights Out in Memphis. I love that album when it first came out. She had charisma. I think she could have gone a long way, but I think she said in an interview later on that she thought she could do it, and she was overwhelmed with what was involved with actually having a musical career, touring. She had children. She wanted to write. She wanted to write for herself. She wanted to write for other people. And I think she saw how much work that was, right? And I'm sure she really tipped her hat off again to her father for as much as he did, for as long as he did. But she only did 3 albums, and that was it. And that was enough that people recognized that she could sing. She had some talent, but she just didn't go any further than that. And of course, her marriages to Danny Keough, I wasn't happy when she married Danny, and because I thought she was too young. And I didn't know who this guy was, although like I had a say in it. But she had 2 kids by him, Ben and Riley, and they were beautiful kids. And then she got the divorce, and she married Michael Jackson, which everybody blew everybody away. I mean, Michael Jackson. And I was happy for her. I'm like, if she's happy with him, and he needs somebody to make him for himself, because he wanted children, he loved life. I felt at that time, and everybody said he was crazy, whatever, but I didn't think so. He was a phenomenal performer, and to think of the king of rock and roll's daughter marrying the king of pop was, to me, like, this is music royalty right here. And so I think one of the things that I was upset about her, though, is when she and her mom went on Oprah, and they talked really bad about Michael Jackson. I think Priscilla was saying that the only reason she thought that Michael had married Lisa was because he wanted either her money or her dad's catalog. Well, Michael had already bought like a huge majority of Sony. Okay, he owned majority, I think 51%. I want to say 51% of Sony's catalog. He didn't need Lisa. He had a whole lot of people publishing under his belt, and that was a lot of power. And everybody was always trying to get it from him. And I just thought it was a really good match. They on that level, they know what being a celebrity was, even though she was more at that time just a daughter of a huge celebrity. I think that the media and people got into their business. Like I said on Oprah, her mom was saying that she thought Michael was marrying her for this reason, getting in her ear. And Lisa was saying that Michael wanted to have children, but Lisa's mom was saying she didn't think she should have children with him, and it just became a crazy, and it was too much pressure, and Lisa decided to leave. She knew he wasn't a child predator or molester, but the pressure of everything and her not having her head on straight, I think she realized when Michael was gone how much she really loved him, because the story was, once she left Michael, Michael was like, okay, fine, we just get a divorce and we'll just move on. She started chasing Michael. That was the story, and a lot of people were saying that. He even said it in one of his, I think they had it on audio. They were like doing it, someone was trying to do a video with him or an autobiography with him. The Rabbi Shula, I think that's his name. And he had it all on tape because he was trying to write a book with him, and so he had a lot of things. He interviewed Michael, and Michael was saying about a lot of people, talking about a lot of things in his life, and Lisa Marie Presley was one. But when Lisa went on Oprah, she confirmed, yes, she was the one running after Michael for like 2 years trying to get him back. What had happened in the marriage was that she just wasn't comfortable, and all the people talking in her ear like, this isn't right, you shouldn't be with him, he's crazy, he's just using you. She would leave, and she said she would go back to her ex-husband Danny, and she would go on vacations with him, not be with him, but like go on vacations with him and the children. They have an excuse, but she wouldn't tell Michael that's where she was, and Michael had to find out. So she was the one that broke that marriage up, not Michael. Michael really loved her and wanted kids. She did not want to have kids with him because she was told by people that Michael's only using you, and he only wanted kids by you because he's using you, because he wants to have the king of rock and roll's children. And I'm so happy that even though it happened after he died, she did come back on Oprah, and she actually, retract a lot of the things she was saying, because she wanted to just tell the truth. And the reason why she was so attracted to Michael was because, of course, he shined so brightly. Michael shined so brightly, almost as brightly as her father. And she felt that, and she wanted a man who could match to her father. It was that simple, and that was the attraction on her part, and she admitted that. So, but then they got a divorce, and life went on, and then Michael had his kids by Linda. Okay, and then she got married to Nicolas Cage, actor Nicolas Cage, and they all say Nicolas Cage was a Elvis aficionado. He loved him some Elvis, and so they didn't like that either. And then, but the biggest issue was that he and Lisa Marie, I don't know how long they dated, but they only lasted like 100 days in the marriage, because they would fight all the time, and to the point that she took her ring off and threw it. They were on a boat ride, I think, or at a port, and she threw the ring in the ocean, and they never got that ring back. It was a multi-million-dollar ring. So that was the end of that marriage. And then she got married to this last guy, this guitarist, who she had her twins by. Beautiful girls. They're 14 years old now. And they lasted 10 years, but at the end, I don't know what happened. She accused the guy of being, having underage pictures of kids on his computer, and he accused her of things. It was so acrimonious that it took forever for them to divorce, because it was just so many accusations thrown at each other. And so therefore, they got divorced. But overall, I really like Lisa. And then like how she threw Michael under the bus and lied on him originally about why they broke up and why she doesn't know, made it a joke of why she was married to him. But I had a lot of respect when she could come back and she could fix what she said and tell the truth. And she did go to his funeral, and she had a picture when she was on Oprah. She showed the picture of her at his casket, her and her daughter Riley. And Oprah asked her, why did she need that? She said, I just didn't want to leave him there by himself. That tells you how much she loved him. She said she did not want to leave him in the mausoleum by himself. And someone took a picture of them, and that was probably the last picture anybody took of Michael at the funeral. It was her and her daughter standing beside his casket. And so I know they love each other. I do. I really know they love each other. It's just that there's too many people in too many people's ears and just not doing the right thing. Lisa had a lot of issues with relationships. So this last thing, when I saw her, it was Elvis Presley's birthday week, January the 8th, and he turned 88 years old. He would have turned 88 years old. And I actually caught it on YouTube when she did her little speech. And I said, oh, she lost a lot of weight. Because, she over time, she would go up, she would go down. This time she lost a lot of weight. She was thin, but she had no sunglasses. And she was greeting people. She was talking to people like normal. And she did a speech. And it was a short speech, but she did it. And I'm like, oh, cool. She came out this year. And she looked, okay, And then I think 3 days later, she was at the Globe Awards, where Austin Butler won for his portrayal of Elvis in the new Elvis movie. And but when I saw her first sitting at the table with her mother, and I'm like, oh, there she is. Her face is really gone. She's really thin. And then they showed like things afterwards, like the next day. I think that Friday morning. The next morning I watched all the things on it because they were like, oh, she photobombed Aston Butler when he was doing an interview or whatever. And I said, I want to see that. That's going to be cute. So I saw it, and that's when I really saw her up close. And I'm like, Lisa, what happened? So it's between January 8th and the 12th, I think, when she died. I don't know if she aged that much between them because she had glasses at the Graceland. And she didn't, and a coat and all that. She didn't have that at the actual Globe Awards, but it looked like she had aged older than her mother. She was slower reacting. She looks unsteady. She was holding on to Jerry Schilling as she was doing the interviews, and it was like, what's up with her? What is wrong with you, Lisa? That's what I was thinking to myself. She just did not look good. She did not look well. She did not look good. She should probably not have been there, but I'm thinking, okay, well, she probably came no matter what because she wanted to support Austin, and that's cool. And then I come find out later that she was in the hospital. My heart stopped. I'm like, oh my God, she's in the hospital. And I was praying for her all that day, like, oh, please let her be okay, because they said full cardiac arrest. And when you think of full cardiac arrest, for me, I'm thinking she died. And evidently that's what happened. She died. They didn't have a heartbeat when they got there, and then they gave her a booster shot of epinephrine to get her heart started again, and it got her to the hospital. And then there was no word for a while. And then later that night, I was on my phone and I saw the news come up, breaking news that Lisa Presley had died. I was so torn because she's my age. I loved her father since I was probably 7. I don't know how long I was been watching these movies and keeping up with her and her life and her mother's life and her daughter Riley, watching her movies because I think she's a fine actress. And just hoping to see what the twin girls, what they turn out to be. And then of course, when her son died, that was heartbreaking because I'm like, everybody knows when a person loses their child, especially to suicide, it's hard on them. And Lisa's had this tug of war with mental health, I would say. I wouldn't say she's, I'm just saying it, depression probably, right? And drug use. I'm like, this is going to be hard on her. And evidently it was. I'm sure she died of a broken heart from having to deal with her father, the legacy, the issue with Michael Jackson dying. Her son killed himself, most importantly, and just not getting back on her feet, not landing back on her feet. It was only 2 years ago. I mean, actually, it took me a few days. Today is Monday. I mean, I had to get over the initial shock from Friday to, I think, Sunday. It started to hit on me like, okay, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. These things happen, and she had a full life, as full as she could have it. And she's left 3 beautiful kids here, and her mom's still here, and that love and the prayers need to go to them. It's not about me, definitely. It's about them and the grace of God comforting them and finding a way to resolve a lot of the issues that's out there that needs to be resolved because of her dying at this age on loose ends. And I'm sure nobody ever thought she would die this young. So, they will find out. They did an autopsy on her on Sunday. So whether it's going to be released or not, that's up to the family. But we do know that there was an autopsy done. So I'm sure her mother wanted to know exactly what happened to her daughter. But what we can say is we can pray for the kids and we can pray for the family and the fans who were touched by them. And, just keep enjoying Elvis's music and his talent. his charisma, his showmanship. And hopefully there are other artists out there that can one day get to that level and give us that same type of showmanship, you know, that same height that he got to, because it was high. It was extremely high. So anyway, I'm a black girl who loves Elvis. So anyway, y'all have a great day. Talk to you later. Blessings.